one of my favorite paradoxes that I routinely think about, especially at my work as an adjunct professor, right? A lot of times my peers and I can be a little bit too close and not challenge each other. One of my favorite paradoxes to worry about is the Abaline paradox. The Abaline paradox actually gets its name from Abaline, Texas. It talks about a family who had thought they had agreed to travel to Abaline to eat at a diner that they all thought they liked. But it turned out everybody just assumed everybody else wanted to go to Abaline. And they have this miserable road trip, and they come home to realize that, gee, nobody seemed to want to go, and everybody thought it was somebody else's idea, right? Now, in my everyday life, I see a lot of Abaline paradoxes, but it sometimes goes beyond just one family or one office, right? I used to work at another office. Every Friday, we would decide to go to a local restaurant. This was in New York, and I had a difficult time going to restaurants in New York because I have to ask allergy questions, and I don't want to hold people back. I often would not go with them, or I would have to, they always wanted me to join them, so they were always asking me how they could make it work out. But you know what, I think it was more important for them to be able to network, and I can always find other things to network with, right? I always wish we had a society where people were not identified by what they could eat, right, or what they like to do. There's so many good things in life. I often get identified by what I can and can't eat. I hate it. I wish I could break away from that. And I think a lot of people would like to mingle with me a whole lot more if they didn't have to listen to me talk about dietary restrictions, right? So that alone is almost like an Abaline paradox, right? But the biggest Abaline paradox I see, so I live in the United States where more than 50% of marriages fail, and I think a good percentage of those people probably would have been happier to never marry in the first place, right? But we live in a society where people are judged by whether or not they get married. And so the end result is that everybody assumes because everybody else is marrying that they should too, but they only marry because everybody else is doing it. I think that's an Abaline paradox. Now I'm recording this on March 11th, 2022, and this weekend I think we all get to practice our favorite Abaline paradox pastime, unfortunately. I'm going to rock the boat on not practicing it and see how far I get. And, yeah. Here's what I recommend people do. What you could do is don't change your clocks. And when you schedule things with other people, let them know. So let's say I do private tutoring, right? So I have a client at 5 o'clock, but next week when it's 5 daylight time, I'll tell people that, okay, we'll meet 5 daylight, but it's 4 standard time, and kind of advertise the idea that I'm still on a different time as my peers, right? Ideally, I want to switch to mean solar time. It just feels more natural to me. Now, some people want to switch to daylight time the entire year. Now, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, standard time was kind of a compromise, right? Mean solar time means that you have to change your clock when you go from Seattle to Ellensburg. And standard time kind of avoided that problem. And then we have to take it a notch further by introducing daylight time. Doesn't make any sense at all, right? If it were up to me, I would use either mean solar time or universal coordinated time. But definitely not all year daylight time, right? And I certainly wouldn't change the clock from one season to another.